Get ready to plunge into an abyss of mystery and emotion, and in the end, the discovery of the ruthless killer, where the line between hope and despair becomes thin. The story of Vitória Regina de Sousa, a 17-year-old girl, exposes the dark fragility of a system that fails to protect the most vulnerable, finally had its outcome. In Cajamar, São Paulo, a veil of mystery hung over the city, where Vitória's life was tragically cut short. What was supposed to be a routine return from work turned into a nightmare that resonates with the pain and indignation of an entire community. 7 days of agony, relentless searches, and the cruel discovery of her body in a wooded area. The scene was disturbing, a portrait of the violence that plagues our society. The confession, a bitter relief, does not erase the pain of loss, but reveals the sick mind of a predator. But what really happened on that fateful night? What dark secrets lie hidden between the lines of this tragedy? How far can obsession drive a human being to commit a despicable act like the one they did to young Vitória? And why does justice seem so distant, so unattainable? Join us on this dark journey in search of the truth. Hello everyone, welcome to the True Crime Files Investigations channel. If you are a lover of real criminal stories, get ready for an exciting marathon. Every week, we will explore shocking and remarkable cases, the most complex and intriguing ones, with an in-depth analysis of the details and motivations behind each event, which leads us to question human nature. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos, and ensure you're always up to date with our exclusive content. Leave your like to strengthen our community and motivate me to bring more and more impactful and unprecedented stories. Get ready to discover the backstage of the crime world, learn about the failures of the judicial system and the stories of victims fighting for justice. Welcome to an investigative and emotional journey. I count on you on this journey. The truth is about to be revealed. So, fasten your seatbelts, because the investigation begins now. The community of Cajamar, São Paulo, was deeply shaken by the disappearance and tragic death of Vitória Regina de Sousa, a young girl of just 17 years old. The story, which began with a mystery, had its outcome on February 26, when Vitória, after a day of work at a local shopping mall, took the bus back home. That night, what was supposed to be a routine return turned into a nightmare. Vitória exchanged messages with a friend, expressing the fear she felt upon realizing she was being followed by 2 men. Witnesses confirmed seeing a car with 4 men following the young girl right after she got off the bus. The feeling of danger hung in the air. Vitória's disappearance mobilized the city in relentless searches. The police and family members, with the support of various agents, tracker dogs, and drones, searched every corner of the region. The hope of finding her alive was the driving force behind the searches. The anguish came to an end on March 5th, when Vitória's body was found in a wooded area in Cajamar. The scene was disturbing. The young girl's body was in an advanced state of decomposition and showed signs of violence. A police officer at the search site reported that the victim's body was brutally violated. The young girl's head was shaved, and she was unclothed. The cruelty of the crime shocked even the most experienced investigators. The Cajamar Police Precinct took responsibility for the investigation, working with various hypotheses for the crime. More than 18 people were questioned, and 2 vehicles were seized for forensic analysis. Each clue was a thread of hope in the search for the truth. Vitória's body was mourned and buried amidst strong emotion from family, friends, and city residents. Cries of justice echoed during the burial. The pain of loss mixed with the indignation over the violence. In a new statement, Michael Antonio Sales dos Santos confessed to the murder of young Vitória Regina de Sousa in a crime that occurred in Cajamar. Michael is already in custody. The information was confirmed by the São Paulo police. The confession brought bitter relief but did not erase the pain of loss. In the forensic analysis performed on Michael's cell phone, the police also found images of a revolver and a knife. The evidence was accumulating against the accused. In a press conference, the police confirmed that Michael was the sole person responsible for Vitória's death. The investigation pointed to a premeditated and cruel crime. Young Vitória, 17 years old, was found dead in a wooded area in Cajamar, in Greater São Paulo. She had been missing for 7 days after being kidnapped while returning home. Vitória's journey was tragically interrupted. The police used the Israeli software Celebrite, which helped the police locate evidence against Michael Antonio Sales dos Santos. Technology became an ally in the search for justice. Among the files found on the individual's device, there are several photos of Vitória. The various records denote traits identical to those observed in stalking crimes. Michael's sick obsession was revealed in the photos. The forensic analysis confirmed that Michael accessed Vitória's Instagram profile after her disappearance, in the early morning of February 27th. Investigators, in an initial analysis, conjecture that the man might have some kind of fixation on the victim of the crime. Michael's behavior was disturbing and led to the belief in a sick mind. The heightened interest in the victim's profile is not limited to her. There are also images of other girls who physically resemble her, presenting the same traits as the victim. The pattern repeated itself, revealing the profile of a predator. The investigation is looking into conversations between Michael and Vitória's ex-boyfriend, showing concern about his car supposedly related to the crime, which could suggest a connection between them. The web of relationships was becoming increasingly complex. Michael's lawyers denied his involvement in the crime and said they would prove the man's innocence throughout the investigation and the process. Michael's defense clung to the hope of innocence. The investigation into the murder of Vitória Regina de Sousa, killed in Cajamar, is expected to conclude by April 13th, the date she would have turned 18. The police consider it important to conclude the investigation by that date. Justice sought to provide an answer to the family and society. The investigation is expected to conclude, depending on pending reports, especially the autopsy, which will reveal the cause of death and injuries. The details of Vitória's death were crucial to the investigation. The comparison of Vitória's DNA with blood samples from one of the suspects is also expected to be completed by the beginning of next week. The advanced state of decomposition of the body makes the autopsy process difficult. Science was striving to unravel the last mysteries of the crime. The brutal death of Vitória Regina de Sousa tragically and irrefutably exposed the deep fragility of the Brazilian legal system regarding the protection of life, especially that of women. Impunity, the leniency of laws, and the exasperating slowness of the judicial system create fertile ground for the proliferation of violence, where heinous crimes like the one that took Vitória's life become alarmingly recurrent. Lenient punishments for violent crimes, such as femicide and abuse, are often insufficient to deter criminals and ensure the justice so longed for by victims and their families. The agonizing delay in the investigation and prosecution of crimes contributes to the corrosive feeling of impunity, encouraging recidivism and perpetuating the vicious cycle of violence. Brazilian legislation still has worrying gaps that hinder the punishment of crimes such as stalking and cyberstalking, which can precede and culminate in crimes of extreme severity. Violence against women is still, in many cases, trivialized and underestimated, which is reflected in the lack of substantial investment in public policies for the prevention and combat of this form of violence. Many victims of violence, especially the most vulnerable, face insurmountable obstacles to denounce their aggressors and seek justice, whether due to fear, lack of information, or financial difficulties. The death of Vitória Regina de Sousa cannot be in vain. It is necessary for Brazilian society to mobilize vehemently to demand urgent changes in the legal system and the country's culture, in order to guarantee the protection of life and justice for all victims of violence. It is necessary to toughen penalties for violent crimes, in order to deter criminals and ensure justice. Expedite the investigation and prosecution of crimes, so that justice is done quickly and effectively. Improve legislation to punish crimes such as stalking and cyberstalking, preventing the escalation of violence. Invest in public policies for the prevention and combat of violence against women, so that all women feel safe and protected. Guarantee access to justice for all victims of violence, regardless of their social or economic condition. It is necessary for society to mobilize and not remain silent in the face of violence, so that Vitória's death is not in vain. Thank you so much for watching this story. Your presence and support are essential for me to continue creating quality content. So, if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new episodes. Your subscription and comments are fundamental for me to keep bringing quality content. Leave your opinion in the comments, always with respect for the victims, and together let's build an even better community. Thank you so much for following my work, and I'll see you in the next episode.